Story 1. Am I the a-hole for telling my 48M wife 37F about my fears of her having an affair with her son's friend? 20M. Wife and I have been together 11 years and married 9. She's got 3 kids, 2018-14 with her ex, and I've got one with my ex 19, and we have one together 5. My stepson has been good friends with this kid for a couple years. They met working the same job. He comes to our house a lot to play video games, and over the last year has been hanging out with our family generally. I never really liked him coming round because my son told me he was involved in drugs and heavy drinking, and at that time I heard he wasn't earning all his money legally. It was also obvious my stepdaughter had a crush on him. He didn't go to college and works a couple jobs. He's got his own apartment and truck and seems to be doing all right for a guy his age. He comes from a rough home and he's got a bunch of younger siblings. He's very involved with them and seems like a great role model. My stepson and son always complain about hanging out with him when girls were around. He's tall, good-looking, and very charismatic. They say he steals all the girls' attention, and my stepson used to get upset with his now ex-girlfriend because she acted different around him. He asked me for advice, which was hard for me because I think he was right in being worried. It was at this point I noticed even my wife acted slightly different towards him compared to our kids' other friends. I started to think she was probably attracted to him, but I didn't want to worry and overthink it. On top of everything else I mentioned that could have attracted her to him, she also shares a similar background and can tell relates to him a lot. Again, I wasn't too worried about this until recently. Things changed at the beginning of the summer when we found out our youngest son would be starting at the same elementary school as the friend's younger brother. My wife organized for them to hang out together, and that first time her eldest son went with them too. The little boys seem to enjoy each other's company, and so throughout the summer they've taken them to several different places, activities together. Many of the times, just the little boys, the friend, and my wife. This started to make me a little uncomfortable, but I didn't want to say anything about it because it seemed like something juvenile to complain about. A few of the times when I was around before she took the kids out, I could tell she had made an effort with her appearance clothes. Through all this, he's still been coming over to hang out with my stepson. I found myself becoming angry when I found out that he was helping my stepson do some handy jobs around the house. It was at this point I knew I was feeling paranoid about this guy's relationship with my wife. A few weeks ago, when she was showing me something on her phone, I saw that she had a message from him along the lines of "Dude, WTF." Obviously, nothing suspicious, unless you count a guy texting his friend's mom. A week ago, he was around for family dinner and movie night, and the way he and my wife were interacting was driving me insane. It's hard to even put my finger on, but I think it was how familial they seemed with each other, and how when my wife made a bad joke, he was the only one to genuinely laugh. There was also a moment in the kitchen where I saw him briefly touch her waist as he tried to move past her. At this point, I'm worried that my wife is, at the least, having some kind of emotional affair, or possibly something worse. My wife has the time to have an affair. She's a Sam, and I work a lot. She has a highly active social life and is generally gone at least one evening a week seeing friends. Any of the times in the last few months, she could have been somewhere else. Also during the summer, our son spent several weeks at day summer camp, so she was free during the day too. This whole week I've felt stressed and paranoid and decided the best course of action was to just tell her my fears and see what she says. I felt I'd either get an answer yes or no, or have a better sense of if she's hiding something. She was not at all happy I asked her and acted confused that I would bring it up. She said she's just trying to be a supportive person in his life, as he doesn't have many adults in his life he can trust. She even showed me all her text messages with him, and although they text a fair amount, there's nothing too personal or suggestive of affair. She's really mad at me now, and essentially called me an asshole. Am I? Story 2. I never thought it would be my best friend who betrayed me. I never imagined my life could be upended so dramatically. I'm still processing everything, and I'm hoping sharing my story might help me make sense of it all. My name is Laura, and I've been married to Tom for 8 years. We met in college, and our relationship quickly became the stuff of romantic comedies. We were inseparable, and after we graduated, we decided to build our life together. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. One of the constants in our life was my best friend, Julia. She and I had been friends since high school. We were the kind of friends who knew each other's secrets and supported each other through thick and thin. Julia even stood by my side as my maid of honor at our wedding. A few months ago, Julia moved back to town after spending a few years abroad. Her return was a joyous occasion, and she quickly slipped back into her role as an important part of our lives. It was great to have her back, and I felt a renewed sense of excitement about the future. Everything seemed normal until a month ago, when Tom started acting strangely. He was more distant, spending longer hours at work, and often being vague about his whereabouts. I brushed it off as stress from a big project he was working on. It wasn't until I noticed that he was spending a lot of time with Julia that I started to feel uneasy. The breaking point came one evening when I came home early from work. I found Tom and Julia in our living room, sitting close together, laughing and whispering in a way that felt too intimate. I dismissed my initial unease, thinking I was just being paranoid. A week later, Tom came to me with a confession that shattered my world. He told me that he had developed feelings for Julia and that they had been seeing each other romantically. I was stunned. The betrayal was not just from my husband, but also from the friend I considered a sister. Tom and Julia's affair had been going on for a few months. He told me that he was planning to leave me and start a new life with her. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. I was lost and confused, unable to understand how someone I trusted so deeply could do this to me. The pain was unbearable. I needed to confront Julia. When I did, she was tearful and full of excuses, saying she never intended for this to happen but couldn't deny her feelings. Her apology felt hollow compared to the betrayal I felt. In the weeks that followed, Tom moved out, and I had to adjust to a new reality. The emotional roller coaster of processing the end of my marriage while dealing with the betrayal of my best friend was exhausting. I sought therapy and support from family and friends, trying to find a way to heal. Now, months later, I'm slowly rebuilding my life. It's been a journey of self-discovery and learning to trust myself again. Tom and Julia are now together, but the relationship hasn't been as smooth as they might have hoped. I've heard from mutual friends that their new romance is fraught with its own challenges. I'm sharing this because I want to hear from others who have faced similar betrayals. How did you cope? How did you find closure and move forward? I'm learning to embrace my independence and trust that there's a future ahead that's worth looking forward to. Thank you for reading. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex I'm not single for his benefit? Ex-boyfriend Jason M and I are in our early 30s. We'd been dating for 5 years and had planned on marriage, kids, financially planning our future. He left me early summer of 2023. His mom was dealing with a cancer that was caught late, and he couldn't handle being in a relationship. He had to go home and be there with his family. Of course, I'm upset for him, his mom, and our relationship. Admittedly, I said something like, "Don't end us. I can support you. I can fly out every so often and help you, like wash your clothes and get you food and hold down the fort here so all is well when you come home." So after that, I realized I had no one to comfort me outside of my parents. If I said I miss him, our friends said, well, his mom is dying. If someone asked if I'd been in touch, I'd say no, because Jason didn't want to talk to me. Well, his mom is dying. My heartbreak had to take a back seat. I get it, I do, but like no one I cared about cared that I was sad and alone. And I got on with my life, changed the apartment, and only recently started dating again. And on Monday, Jason calls me. His mom had passed months ago. I express my condolences. We chat a bit, catching up, and he asks if I want to get back together. No. Jason said we could start over. Still no. Well, he wants to know why? I said I don't have those feelings anymore and moved on. Now he's upset and mentioned that I offered to keep home open for him. That's when we were dating still. So I said I don't trust him not to toss me away when he has a crisis. He mentions that a mutual friend said I was still single. I said I'm not single for your benefit, and then hung up since he won't get what he want from me. He didn't want me around at any capacity when he was most vulnerable. That was his choice, and I had to accept it. But what if something happens to his grandparents, dad, or siblings? I just be situationally single because my partner doesn't want me there because he can't deal with me being around. Another friend called me yesterday to ask what happened, and I told him. He said I should have just politely declined and that Jason is dealing with a lot. I said I did say no twice or so before it reached that point. Well, his mom just died. I said sorry for snapping. So now some friends think poorly of me, and like two are just being normal. And it's messing with me that people outside of my parents think I'm being petty and lacking in compassion when I don't know what I was supposed to do. TL Dr. Ex-boyfriend left me during family crisis last year. Wanted to get back together. I said no and got sassy when he pushed me. Now friends dislike me because of what I said to grieving ex. Edit update. I blocked them all. I read every comment here, whether good or bad, and read the chats I was sent. The support means more to me than you'll know since I came here confused and upset, and now I'm feeling reassured and understood. Strangers on the internet showed me more kindness and grace and empathy than people that I have shared my life with, and that just truly sucks. I saw some people saying to reach out and get answers, and I can't because I do not trust Jason at all. If he swears, he just couldn't handle being in a relationship that sucks for me and doesn't bode well for the future, because death and events are inevitable. If he says there were no other women, I won't believe him. And if he says there were, then that information still changes nothing for me. I do not want this man back, and I don't want the version of him from our happy times together either. I have blocked Jason and all of our friends, even the good ones, because I can't trust them to care about my privacy or boundaries, especially since they displayed that passive attitude when others were coming after me for being upset at being dumped. If they weren't there for me, then what's there to hold on to? So that's all. Now they can fade off, and if they ever wonder where I am or what I'm up to, they can stew it in. But I have a feeling they'll forget I exist once they realize I'm done, since I wasn't worth much to them if at all. I'm going to download those friend finder apps that were suggested, and I'm going to have to tell my date that he won't be meeting my friends after all. Thank you very much to kind souls who posted.